Hello and welcome. I'm Ali Mustafa coming to you with a special edition of Straight Talk from Diyarbakir on the upcoming elections in Turkey. The city of Diyarbakir lies in the heartland of Turkey's predominantly Kurdish southeast. But the city itself is home not only to Kurds, but also Assyrians, Turks and others. Diyarbakir's ethnic diversity is reflected in its political loyalties, which are equally as diverse. And all these stories come together in the songs of this ancient land. The strings of the tembur transport the listener to a different time. The voice competes with a heavy heart when all hope is lost. The song tells of suffering and loss, an experience the Kurds know all too well. They were stripped of their identity and language at the start of the Turkish Republic, with an ethno-Turkish identity imposed on them. It led to violence in the late 1970s with the emergence of the PKK. The outlawed group unleashed a wave of terrorism in which at least 40,000 people died. All this changed in 2010 when constitutional reforms by the ruling AK Party allowed the Kurds to reclaim their language, and a peace process with the PKK in 2013 helped the HDP 2 years later to become the first Kurdish political movement to reach parliament. But that year the PKK pulled out of the peace process, ending the HDP's political resurgence. Now the HDP's leaders, including its presidential candidate Selahattin Demirtas, is in prison, accused of supporting the PKK's terrorism. But Demirtas's absence hasn't slowed down the HDP's campaign in southeastern Turkey. In the absence of Selahattin Demirtas, with him being behind bars in jail, Sezai Temeli has taken over the reins as a co-chair of the HDP. Now, he's a Turk, but most of these people are the Kurdish minority in Turkey, and they are giving him quite a bit of support. I asked Temeli how he saw his role as someone from the ethnic Turkish majority leading the pro-Kurdish HDP.
We are Turkey's party. Our power is all across Turkey, in the streets, in the neighborhoods. We've boosted our fight for Turkey's democracy and peace, and we'll keep boosting.
While Sezai Temeli is confident of his party's chances, other HDP leaders are not. I met Hishyar Ossoy, an HDP MP and deputy of the party's Parliamentary Foreign Relations Committee, and asked him about the HDP's prospects.
So the HDP, despite the fact that it is mostly known as the pro-Kurdish party, HDP is not a Kurdish party per se. It is very inclusive. We do include in our list almost every sector of the population that has remained underrepresented in this country. If the question is about what do we think about political violence, how do we propose a solution to overcome political violence. We do have so many proposals, but because we are being categorized as terrorists, nobody in the western part of the country is listening to us. I am not in a position to convince you that I am not a terrorist. For God's sake, I'm a politician. I have an academic career, I have a political career, I am here, and I think that we can resolve this issue in a peaceful way. I really do believe in this, and for this we just need to develop some kind of a political will on both sides.
Could we see a potential lines between the AK Party and the HDP?
So here is our position. We don't have a debate on the second round of presidential elections. Maybe President Erdogan will win in the first round. Maybe there will be something 40% something. We don't know about that. Right after the first round, if there is a second round, we will gather and think about it. And then we will be listening to those two candidates, what they are proposing to the people of Turkey. So it's not a done deal. So we haven't decided on supporting this or that candidate.
The Kurdish question and the fate of the HDP's election bid is a topic of heated debate at this tea shop in Diyarbakir. Between card games, the patrons argue politics. The diversity of opinions here is reflected in the elections across Turkey's southeast.
Selamünaleyküm. Merhaba, kolay gelsin.
Hudapar, known as the Party of God, is a Kurdish political group aligned with the ruling AK Party. I met its leader at the party's offices in Diyarbakir and asked him about Hudapar's role in the upcoming elections.
When we founded Hüdapar, the HDP were happy because they believed the conservative votes would split. The AK Party, on the other hand, was also happy because they thought Kurdish votes would split. So because of the possibility they might lose votes to our party, the AK Party wing accused us of splitting conservative votes, while the HDP wing called us a project to split Kurdish votes. No party should assume that votes are guaranteed in the bag. Sometimes they ask us which party's voters we're aiming for. We say we want votes from citizens because the votes belong to them. Until they stamp the ballot paper, those votes don't belong to anyone.
It's hard to find consensus on any election-related issue in Diyarbakir. But in the end, the elections will be decided on whether the AK Party can chip away at the HDP's vote, while the minority party attempts to cross the 10% threshold. Leading the charge for the AK Party is President Erdogan.
Türkiye Cumhuriyeti Devleti hepimizin devleti. Kimse Kürtlere devlet aramasın. Kürtlerin devleti Türkiye Cumhuriyeti Devleti'dir.
Erdogan has invested a lot of political capital in Diyarbakir, from the rebuilding of Sur to hopes of negotiating peace. A lot is at stake here for him and his AK Party, despite this being an HDP stronghold. The AK Party's strategy in Diyarbakir is riding on the party's ability to outdo the HDP. It's led by Mehmet Mehdi Eker, who says he's basing his party's chances on developing the Kurdish areas.
It is a symbol of a pluralistic approach historically. It is a symbol city of our civilizational perception, Islamic civilization. And it is a symbol of integrity and unity throughout the history. We have Kurds, we have Turkmens, we have Assyrians, we have Armenians, we have so many different ethnic origins, and in the real sense of pluralistic definition, we have really experienced all of this in this beautiful city of Diyarbakir.
The AK Party has been instrumental. The reforms that the AK Party initiated, part of the peace process in 2013, moving forward, even though it didn't last more than 2 years, it collapsed in 2015. The AK Party...
It was not collapsed by us. It was provoked by PKK. and of course some intelligence services.
This is part of the record, and this is what the ARC Party says as well, but the ARC Party has been responsible for ushering in reforms that eventually led the HDP to reach Parliament, cross the 10% threshold. What is the way forward? Can we see the ARC Party re-engage if it reaches Parliament? These are crucial elections. I guess the question is, how critical are these elections for peace in the Kurdish areas of Turkey?
We, unlike some European countries or any other Kurds living in any other countries, unlike them, we are individually integrated. You know, we have our residence in any part of Turkey as a Kurd. Myself, as an native speaker of Kurdish language, born and grown in the city of Diyarbakir, we integrated with our Turkish brothers and sisters.
But a lot of people don't feel like this.
The problem is with the PKK and with the terrorist attacks and the approach and even their analysis of the history. That is the problem. So each time when we try to take a step forward, unfortunately, the atmosphere was either poisoned or sabotaged or provocated.
By the PKK?
By the PKK, of course.
What is the way forward? What is the way forward?
The way forward is to neutralize as a terrorist organization and terrorist activities, to neutralize their effect, and then those who have any legitimate idea and opinion, whatever it is, they can openly and freely discuss, okay, and bring to the agenda of the Turkey.
What are your chances, finally? What are your chances in Diyarbakir this time? Are you hopeful?
Yes, we are.
You think you've done enough?
Well, we know what we have done for the city, and we sure, and again, we know and determine what we will do for the future, and we know how to tell this to these people, and people knows now. They are, differentiate between, the destroyers and the builders and constructors.
Mehmet Mehdi Eker, thank you so much.
Thank you.
3 years ago, Diyarbakir's walled Sur district became a war zone after the PKK terror group pulled out of peace talks with the Turkish state. Now, the government says nearly 1/3 of historical Sur has been destroyed, and while efforts are being made to rebuild this historic area, rebuilding lives affected by the PKK's violence is proving much harder, as Ömer Kablan reports.
Mehmet Gökgöz moves among the tombstones with the grace of a proud father and stops by a familiar grave to pray.
On October 2014, while we were celebrating Eid, my son was killed by the HDP party and the PKK while he was helping the poor. For me, the HDP means the PKK. On the 6th, 7th and 8th October that year, the HDP's leader Selahattin Demirtas called on their supporters to take to the streets. Diyarbakir became a war zone.
Mehmet is referring to the riots of 2014 in southeastern Turkey. The HDP had called on its supporters to hold large demonstrations in support of the Syrian city of Kobani, a densely Kurdish populated city along Turkey's border that at the time was besieged by Daesh. The HDP wanted Turkey to open up a border passage for YPG militants to march into Kobani for support. But for the Turkish government, that was a red line, as it considers the YPG as a Syrian offshoot of the PKK terror group. The PKK has waged war against the Turkish state for decades and is responsible for the deaths of more than 40,000 people, including civilians. The old city of Sur lies in the center of Diyarbakir. This was one of the battlegrounds between the PKK terror group and Turkish forces, but heavy fighting also took place on the outskirts of the city, in the mountains. Ali Aykut lives in a Kurdish village in Diyarbakir with his wife. 2 years ago, his son was killed by the PKK while he was serving in the Turkish military.
Damn the PKK. They killed my son. He had a wife and 2 kids. Turks and Kurds are brothers. The PKK have nothing to do with the Kurds.
His wife Ayşe hung the Turkish flag in front of her house, despite negative reactions from her neighbors.
I'm ready to give everything for this country. I have already given my most precious possession, my son.
Many mothers in this region share Ayşe's pain. And with the election less than a month away, they're not convinced whether the HDP could provide relief.
The HDP is a democratic political party. According to the constitution, they're as legitimate as any other party in parliament. You can look at the HDP in 2 ways, either as a solution, one that would move it from violence to politics, or as a problem.
Back in the city of Diyarbakir, Mehmet Gökgöz wonders whether a solution is really in range. But despite all he has lost, he still retains the hope that somehow things will be looking up. Ömer Kablan, Straight Talk.
The tragedy of violence in the Kurdish areas not only has a human cost, but a heavy price has been paid with the loss of historical sites. The elections are being held amid the ruins of an ancient city. The district of Sur, home to many empires, was partially destroyed in 2015 during fighting between the PKK terror group and Turkish forces. Now the Turkish government is investing millions of dollars to rebuild those areas in the hopes that tourists will return, like the historic Kurshunlu Jami. There I met Ufuk Nurullah Bilgin, who is responsible for reconstructing historic Sur. We are standing in this historical mosque, which was built hundreds of years ago. Tell us about the specific structure that was destroyed in Sur.
This is Fatih Pasha, Kurshunlu Mosque. Unfortunately, members of the organization tried to burn down the mosque during the events in Sur. The mosque received great damage, but it's being restored as we speak. Hopefully, the mosque will be back in service at the end of the year in the state it was before.
Ufuk Bey, this is one of many structures that was destroyed in Sur. According to some estimates, 1/3 of Sur was destroyed. Tell us about the overall impact of the violence in this historic district.
I must say that Sur is probably one of the starting points of human history. It's had a host of civilizations, each of which had a sense of culture, architecture, and humanity. We have to pass this on to future generations. During the events, inns, baths, mosques, churches were all destroyed. It was beyond recognition. It was vandalism. But right now, under the patronage of President Recep Tayyip Erdogan and with support from the Ministry of Environment and Urbanization, Hasan Basir Güzeloğlu is leading a massive effort of reconstruction and rehabilitation. And now, all the restoration activities continue intensively to recover the monuments, past cultures, and civilizations to maintain for future generations.
There are other concerns. Residents say that they've been waiting for a long time to move back into these areas. When will reconstruction of historical Sur be completed, and will residents be allowed to move back into homes and houses that they had lost in the fighting?
Of course, the work carried out here is ultimately for the people of Sur. In every work we do here, they will be given priority. We want to turn this place into a tourist attraction. Tourism has always used three things, triplets if you like, to attract people: the sea, the sand, and the sun. But the world is changing now. There are new tourism trends of history, culture, civilization, and faith. Sur in Diyarbakir has all of these. Sur is an open-air museum with mosques, inns, baths, churches, and local architectural works from civilizations of thousands of years. After we complete these works, as people return, there will also be employment opportunities. We expect millions of tourists. In this day and age, that's not hard to imagine.
Ufuk Bilgin, thank you so much.
Ben teşekkür ederim, çok sağ olun.
While security and development is an important issue for voters in Turkey's Kurdish areas, the spillover of Syria's 7-year war is shaping voter priorities in southern Turkey, especially the influx of refugees. Courtney Keeley tells us what people in Gaziantep are demanding of their candidates and what those politicians are promising to deliver.
The sign of the grey wolf originally started in the 1970s street battles between Turkish leftists and the ultranationalist youth known as the Grey Wolves. While it's sometimes used as a symbol for the political party MHP allied with President Erdogan for the July 24th election, this time it's in support of candidate Meral Akşener, who broke away from the MHP and recently launched the new E, or Good Party. As the first ever female Turkish presidential candidate, she's nicknamed the She-Wolf, or Asena, who in Turkish mythology gave birth to 10 half-human, half-wolf males. The former Turkish interior minister collects scarves at all of her rallies, she says as a symbol of peace. It's one way she is courting the female vote.
We are expecting justice from Meral. Meral is our mother.
I want Meral Akşener because she's a woman. Let there be change.
Madam Courtney Keeley, I'm with TRT World. Neden Meral?
İçin Erdoğan değil de Meral Akşener. Gördünüz. Yani vatandaşı gördünüz.
Woman president?
Yes.
How important is this?
Very important. But I am a woman.
They're asking how will she change the relationship, the shaking relationship right now with the US and the EU?
Eşit, açık ve şeffaf.
Part of her platform is to dismantle the new presidential system approved in last year's referendum. She has come under criticism for her stance on Syrian refugees. She often says she will host a traditional meal to end the day's fast and iftar for them during the holy month of Ramadan, but only after they have returned to Syria.
Size söz veriyorum, 2019'un Ramazan ayında her şehirden, 81 şehrimizden temsilcilerimizle, Suriyeli kardeşlerimizle Suriye'de beraber iftar açacağız inşallah.
Here in Gaziantep, near the Turkey-Syria border, the city has absorbed 500,000 of the 3.5 million refugees now in Turkey.
The opposing parties used this refugee issue to create a new platform for themselves before every election.
Fatma Şahin, the mayor of Gaziantep for the last 4 years, is a prominent woman in the AK party.
Our country has an open-door policy to our Syrian brothers and sisters so that women and children don't die. Since Gaziantep is a border city, we have opened our doors and homes to 500,000 Syrian refugees, and we live together with them.
Şahin says the Justice and Development Party has a 60% majority in Gaziantep and is confident the E-Party won't make much of a dent in the vote. Still, she's out on streets campaigning for AK Party votes with party members like Abdulhamid Gul, who is from Gaziantep and also currently the Justice Minister. With the election fast approaching, the parties are stepping up their campaign efforts and keeping female voters in mind. Courtney Keeley, Straight Talk.
Now, we started this show with a song that embodied generations of the Kurdish tradition. Music has played an integral part for Kurds, not only providing entertainment, but for preserving history itself. Ali Aktaş finds inspiration in stories from Kurdish folklore. For Aktaş, events of the past, tragedies, our stories of love resonate in the present.
If you loved someone, there wasn't internet in the past as it is today. There weren't phones and you couldn't hold their hands. So what did they do? They expressed their emotions by composing and singing these songs. They expressed their pains and joys and celebrations through song. If those don't exist, the language we speak today wouldn't have been.
And that's all for this special edition of Straight Talk from Diyarbakir. Next week, we'll be taking you to Europe and see how Turks are preparing for the upcoming elections there. If you've got any comments or suggestions, do share them with us on Twitter with the hashtag Straight Talk. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Until next time, take care and goodbye.